Hi there, fellow sea glass lovers. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Jackie, and this is part 10 in my Lighthouse Workshop series. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about creating a horizon line when you're doing a seascape with your sea glass. Now, if you look out there, you can see that there's a distinct line on the horizon. The horizon divides the water and the sky, and when you're doing a piece of seascape art, it's really important to make sure that that horizon line is clearly identified. So I'm going to give you some strategies on how you can do that quite effectively with your sea glass. So the key with your horizon line is that it has to be straight. So I have a line drawn on my pattern underneath here, but I'm still going to double check that. And I have done things like take a dry erase marker and draw a straight line. And I've done things like put a piece of tape there, and then you can remove it after you get your horizon line done. And be sure to use a straight edge to make sure that your horizon line is at a 90-degree angle with the edge of your frame. So I take a pile of my littlest green, because my water is going to be green. So I want my littlest green, and I'm going to line those up on the horizon line to make a really tiny line here. And then I will go through and glue those on. Now when you're gluing on tiny bits of sea glass, it's really hard to hide all of the silicone underneath the piece of sea glass because it's so tiny. And if you put too little on, it's going to fall off. So you just kind of have to use your judgment here. So I'm going to, remember with the silicone, it takes a while to dry, so you do have time to fuss with it. So what I will typically do here is glue a bunch of these on, and then before I leave them, I'm going to take my straight edge and just go like this, make sure they're all in a straight line and that it's at a 90-degree angle with the side of my frame. Double checking does not hurt, especially when you have a pattern on the back, because the pattern can often kind of fall down a bit and slack. So don't rely totally on your line. I remember one time I was doing a circle and I was relying on the line of my circle, and by the time it was a moon, beautiful moon, and then by the time I finished my moon, it was kind of crooked because I did follow my line, no problem, but the paper had slipped a little bit and it was kind of slack. So I ended up having to redo my circle. So now I'm going to do the horizon line in this pane of glass, and I want to make sure that the horizon line lines up with the horizon line here, because again, my paper may have slipped out of place. So this is an example of why it's important to glue your focal points on first, and then when you come along to do any filling in of the background, see here my sails, they're all set and glued into place. I gave them time to set before I came to the horizon line part. And now when I rub up against them, I'm not going to move those pieces of glass out of place. Now when I have something like this little sailboat that I wanted to kind of break the horizon line, I don't glue that in ahead of time. I just tend to glue stuff like that as I'm going. So as I glue in the horizon line, I'm going to add my little sailboat there, right on the horizon line. So then the pieces that I'm using for the horizon line line up really well with it. It was interesting, recently someone was looking at one of my pieces and they said, oh, you leave spaces around all of your pieces of sea glass so they're not touching, except on the horizon line. You have the horizon line touching all the way across. And I said, no, there are spaces there. But what happens is that's the magic of mosaic, where your eye kind of fills everything in. So even though none of these pieces of sea glass are touching along the horizon line, it's reading like a solid line. It's a bit of an optical illusion. And now in this pane of glass, I have the cape here glued on, so it's not going to move out of place, and my lighthouse is glued on, so it's not going to move out of place. So I can put the horizon line in here, and it will be just fine. So again, I want to measure to make sure the horizon line lines up with the horizon line in the other panes of glass. And you want to make sure it's nice and straight. Now I am not going to continue on with doing anything above and below the horizon line until that has set. I'll know it's set when all of that white silicone dries clear and I can't see it. And that way I know that it won't move out of place as I'm putting other pieces in place around it. So then what you want to do is take some of your larger green pieces and put them right at the edge of the beach. And between the horizon line and the beach, you want to gradually get bigger as you work towards the horizon. And then what that does is it gives you a feeling of distance from the beach all the way to the horizon line. So then I just take my green sea glass and I fill in from the beach all the way up to the horizon line. And then it really emphasizes the horizon line when the water is all green. So I really hope you found this video interesting. Be sure to join me for my next video and you can see my progress on this piece, and I'll give you some more really good tips on creating your sea glass mosaic lighthouse. So I hope you make it out to the beach, and happy sea glass hunting!